Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Tuesday, April 26. News from Arkansas. Governor Asa Hutchinson proudly announced this morning that a Chinese company, Sun Paper, would build a $1 billion pulp mill in Arkadelphia to make paper products. It's going to cost the state of Arkansas a bundle in incentives to get them the exact amount the state hasn't yet put together. Tens of millions, almost certainly. They're going to build a rail yard, do other infrastructure improvement. They're going to get a tax-free bond issue to build a plant, and they won't have to pay property taxes because it will be technically public property. They'll get sales tax rebates, other forms of tax credits. It supposedly will create 250 jobs, paying about $52,000 a year. Elsewhere around the state today, Representative Janet De La Rosa introduced, as I'd said she would, a bill to provide $750,000 to buy an online campaign finance reporting system for the Secretary of State's office. This is only to pay for the system, not to require legislators to file. That wouldn't come until 2017. But the vote on the appropriation, which takes a 75% vote, will give us some idea if there are still enough members of the legislature resistance to greater accountability that we won't be able to pass this legislation. That would be too bad. We learned today another sad fact about the poorly named ethics amendment. We've talked for years about how they found ways around the supposed prohibition on lobbyists buying food and drink for legislators. We now found we thought that they had been required to report these meetings. Quite a few have been listed because in theory when the legislature meets in public session, the public's supposed to be invited. To get away with free food and drinks, they have to declare something a planned activity of the legislature. Found out from an ice cream social today that in fact lobbyists now, if they just give 24-hour notices to members of the legislature privately through email or otherwise, that they can have their little free swillathons and the public need not be aware of it. Ethics is a pretty empty word in the Arkansas legislature, I'm sorry to say. Speaking of misdeeds by the Arkansas legislature, Senator Jeremy Hutchinson of Little Rock has held up the budget of the Capital Zoning District Commission. This is a planning commission that oversees the neighborhoods around the Capitol and the Governor's Mansion in hopes of preserving the look of those historic neighborhoods. Some people haven't been happy about some of the decisions by that commission, particularly a lawyer who has been losing on an effort to get a fence built that's higher than specifications around his historic home. Jeremy Hutchinson's taken up their case. He may abolish the commission. He says the Little Rock Planning Commission can do that job just as well. I want to note for the record that Senators Tom Cotton and John Bozeman, both of whom have fought vigorously to allow Canadian tar sand oil to be shipped across the middle of the United States, don't want clean electric energy produced by wind energy shipped across Arkansas. They would stop the Energy Department budget rather than have this line be built across to Arkansas. Tonight in North Little Rock from 5 to 8 at the Wyndham Hotel, there's going to be a public hearing on the Interstate 30 plan by the Arkansas Highway Department. Early word seems to indicate that the compromise by the Highway Department that's intent on building a 10-lane freeway will still be a 10-lane freeway. They're going to make some improvements to a 2nd Street exit that apparently will make the Clinton School happy and perhaps some city fathers in the River Market District. This overlooks the bigger picture of how damaging freeways, particularly wider freeways, are to cities, but it looks like some important people are going to throw in with them because their own particular backyards are being taken care of. That's sometimes how it goes. Last night, the Attorney General's office said that it had finally approved the form of a constitutional amendment that would allow legal marijuana, not just for medicinal purposes, but also for recreational use. There are 2 petitions already circulating on medical marijuana. One of the others, these might or might not make the ballot this year. A ballot issue failed a couple of years ago by a very close margin, in part because there was some resistance allowing people to grow their own. The recreational marijuana amendment does also allow cultivation of small amounts, 36 plants if that's a small amount. It sounds like a lot to me. And finally, on the gay rights front, J.B. Hunt Trucking, whose stockholders said the company should adopt a non-discrimination policy for LGBT people, has decided not to move immediately on that. They've told the SEC their board of directors is going to study this and issue a recommendation in July. They say there may be practical impact. It sounds like they really don't want to do it, which would not be too surprising in Arkansas. The vote of the shareholders, it turns out, is not mandatory. But there's better news from North Carolina. NASCAR, of all people, says it's opposed to the North Carolina anti-gay discrimination bill, and it thinks it's bad for business and bad for North Carolina. If it's good enough for NASCAR, it's good enough for me. More to come in Arkansas on that subject, I'm sure. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.